first question I have for you is, what are the big mega trends you see that will impact the future of the automotive industry?
Our industry is going to govern a lot by regulation on emissions. So that's why you're going to see more electric car, plug-in hybrids, fuel cells. The drive for zero emission is absolutely a mega trend for the industry. Number two is autonomous drive / driverless cars. Autonomous drive means you're in the car, you're driving, and you decide if you want to drive, when you want to drive, what condition you want to drive, or not. Okay? This is huge. This is huge because it's going to make driving much more pleasant, much more safe, and it's going to power your car. Other mega trend is connected cars and services. The connected cars obviously is going to make sure that the car is completely hooked to the internet. And second, which is going to be the case of 100% of the car in 2025. And second is connected services, which is going to allow shared cars, shared services, shared mobility, and a lot of things which are flourishing today. So summarizing, zero emission, autonomous / driverless cars, connectivity of cars and connectivity of services, and everything going around this. These are the mega trends.
One of the trends we see is the advent of cognitive era. We're seeing artificial intelligence coming in. How do you see the role of artificial intelligence in cars?
It's fundamental. I mean, there is no way I'm going to have autonomous cars / driverless cars without artificial intelligence. It's impossible. There is no way I'm going to have connectivity and connected services without artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is at the base of all these possibilities. Because artificial intelligence is going to solve 90% or 95% of the problems. There are going to still be a few problems that human needs to solve. Okay? And we have a very specific case, for example, in the case of autonomous drive, where we are in situations where no matter how much artificial intelligence you build in, we can't solve the problem. Particularly when the car is finding itself in front of a situation when everything is forbidden. Okay? For human being, you don't care, because you always find a solution, even if everything is forbidden. When you go to computing, there is a limit to that, because you cannot overthrow some of the rules that you're putting in computing. So artificial intelligence is a main enabler, but I don't think artificial intelligence is going to completely substitute human mind. It's always going to be here for the unpredictable situation and the very complicated situation that we have.
Absolutely. So a couple of things we picked up from the press conferences yesterday. One was the launch of IoT platforms. I mean, Hyundai talked about launching an IoT platform along with Cisco. Volkswagen is talking about launching 2 platforms, one for cars, one for trucks. And the other big trend we've seen is everybody talking about digital assistants in cars. We understand you're going to also make an announcement today. Could you talk about these 2 trends?
You know, we're moving from a car which was a device of transportation to a car which becomes a mobile, working, or leisure space. Okay? It's a huge difference. It's as much as the telephone and the smartphone. I mean, the telephone was a communication device. Now you have so many other functionality. The car is going to go through the same process. And this means common platforms. This means linking different technologies together. This means choosing partners with who you're going to develop some of these devices. So without any doubt, you're going to see more and more of that. What we can see today and what we can foresee is we have to be very modest, because we can predict probably what's becoming maybe in the next 5 to 10 years. What comes after? So much dependent on our partners and so much dependent on the computing power development or chip development or cameras or sensors, etc. But it's very difficult to predict how far we can go before we can predict how much each one of these devices can do. So that's why we will limit ourselves for 5 to 10 years max.
We see a lot of developments towards new mobility solutions. We talk a lot about e-hailing, car sharing, and so on. How do you see this development? How is this changing the fundamentals of the automotive industry, you think?
You know, well, there are lots of people saying either or. It's not either or. We're going to continue to have a traditional customers who own a car, even if they use it 5% of the time or 10% of the time, even though they have a 4x4 and they are in the city, even though they have a gas guzzler and they drive at 50 miles an hour on average. I mean, a car is a very subjective, emotional, and rational buy. So this is going to continue. Okay. Now on top of this, you're going to have a lot of things developing very fast, not on detriment of car owning, but on top of car owning, which are shared services, driverless cars, a lot of things. I don't think this is going to substitute. I think this is going to add to cars. But on top of this, you're going to have an explosion of services that are going to be new demand, facilitating the life of people, not on detriment of what they used to do, but in my opinion, on top of what they used to do.
Mr. Ghosn, I understand you're going to talk a little bit about robotic taxis later today. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about this project?
Yeah, we're going to announce this project a little bit later. In fact, so far we have been mainly focusing on autonomous drive, which means the driver is in the car, and then we empowering him to decide whenever he wants to drive or not in all conditions. And now we will be announcing that we're going to go also with driverless cars. And driverless cars with a specific partner and a specific experience and a specific timeline, as we like to do it.
So I've seen with Uber, my journey in London from office to home is halved. Now tomorrow, if you take the driver out of the taxi, I'm guessing that'll halve it furthermore. So what does that make mobility? Could mobility be a commodity in the future?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a question of all the cars are going to be without driver. You're going to be some cases in some part of the city, in some condition, at specific timings, where you may have that. So I don't think technology should be seen as the technology we're talking about is not substitutional; it's additional. It's allowing needs which are not being met today to be met. It's interesting because one of the reasons for which companies are extremely interested in driverless cars is mainly because the driver is the biggest limitation to their growth. They cannot find enough drivers. They said they're adding 500,000 drivers a year and they cannot find 500,000 drivers. So for them, it's a huge problem. Much more than for car makers. So we understand that driving this technology because they say, well, for us, it's a question of how much can we grow. Obviously, there is a question of also reducing the cost of the journey, because if they don't have it, somebody else can have it, and if somebody else can have it, then it's a lethal threat for them. So some of these developments can be driven from outside the car industry. But at the end of the day, the car industry is going to have to be associated with it, because at the end of the day, we make the cars and we put the technology on the cars, and we can deliver this kind of device. So again, I don't think it's going to become a commodity because technology is going to continue to develop, and I don't think you're going to have driverless cars in any condition. You're going to have driverless cars in certain condition, which means that it's going to be in addition to the existing park.
I'm glad to hear that. I love my cars. Moving on to, we are living increasingly in a heterogeneous society, which is divided by age. You've got the millennials, you've got the baby boomers, by income. What does this mean to the car industry? How do we personalize and customize cars and the experience to such a diverse society?
Well, obviously this means that we need to continue to diversify our product offer, taking into consideration the specificity and the diversity of our customer. For example, we have a platform in India putting on the market a very modern car that we are selling between $3,000 and $4,000. This is specific to the Indian consumer. And if it works in India, we know it's going to be working in many of the emerging markets, in Russia, in China, in Brazil, in Africa, in the Middle East, etc. So what I'm saying by this is the car makers, we know that we have diverse customers. We know that women and men do not choose the same kind of feature. Older people are not interested in the same kind of feature than younger people. We know that. And we know that Chinese do not select car with the same priority than Japanese or than American or than Europeans. So this is our core business, is how can we be efficient and at the same time answer so many different tastes, requirements, priorities, pricing powers. That's the core of our job.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you very
Ghosn.
much.
Thank you.